In the village of Okiri, there lived a man named Daren who behaved strangely at funerals. While others wept and mourned, Daren laughed. His laughter was not nervous or shy. It was full and deep, as if he had just heard the funniest story in the world. Children would hide behind their mothers when they saw him, and adults whispered that something was surely wrong with him. Some called him cursed, others thought him mad, but Daren never explained. He simply smiled, shook his head, and walked away. One morning, the village woke to sad news. Elder Nwoke, the kindest and wisest man in Okiri, had died. His passing felt like a wound in every household. He was the one who fed children when hunger struck and settled quarrels when neighbors clashed. His loss brought silence and tears to the entire community. As people began preparations for a great funeral, one question weighed on their hearts. Would Daren appear? And if he did, would he laugh? The day of the funeral came. Under a large canopy at the village square, men and women dressed in black sat in solemn rows. Elder Nwoke's family wept softly at the front. The priest raised his hands to begin prayers, and the air thickened with sorrow. Then, at the very edge of the gathering, Daren appeared. He wore his usual faded shirt and dusty sandals. People shifted nervously, holding their breath. As the priest spoke of Elder Nwoke's goodness, a sound broke the silence. It was Daren laughing loudly. His laughter rang out like thunder, shocking the mourners. Faces turned, mouths fell open. Nwoke's son, Taye, jumped to his feet, his eyes blazing. "How dare you laugh at my father's funeral?" he shouted. Murmurs spread quickly. Some villagers demanded Daren be dragged out. But the man did not stop. He clutched his belly, laughing harder as if the grief around him was a joke. Taye stormed towards him, fists clenched. "What is wrong with you?" he cried. "Why mock us when we mourn?" The crowd pressed closer, eager to hear Daren's excuse. Slowly, he wiped the tears of laughter from his face and said quietly, "I am not mocking your father." His voice was calm, almost gentle. "I laugh because I see what you cannot." The villagers gasped. "What do you mean?" Taye demanded. Daren shook his head, gave no answer, and walked away, leaving the square in heavy silence. That evening, Okiri buzzed with talk. He insulted the family, one woman muttered, or perhaps, another whispered, he knows something. Still, many dismissed him as a madman. But Taye could not shake the humiliation. His father had been disrespected before the entire village. He will explain himself. Taye swore to himself. "I will not rest until I know the truth." Before Taye could act, tragedy struck again. The next week, a young woman named Lami, known for her beauty and kindness, died suddenly. Her mother wailed, insisting her death was no accident. Rumors of foul play spread quickly. A funeral was arranged, but fear gripped the villagers. "Will Daren come again?" they whispered. "And if he does, will he laugh once more?" The funeral began under gray skies. Lami's family sat in the front row, their sobs filling the air. As the priest began prayers, Daren slipped quietly into the back. His face was unreadable. For a moment, the villagers thought he might remain silent. But then, as the priest spoke of Lami's life, Daren began to laugh. The sound was sharp, unsettling, and filled with eerie echoes that chilled the crowd. Lami's mother sprang to her feet, screaming through her tears. "Why are you laughing at my daughter's death?" The crowd roared in agreement, furious and confused. Daren stopped suddenly, his laughter fading into silence. He looked directly at the grieving mother and said firmly, "I do not laugh at your daughter. I laugh because the truth is near." Gasps spread like fire. "What truth?" someone shouted. "Stop speaking in riddles," another cried. But Daren gave no reply and turned to leave. Taye's anger boiled as he watched Daren walk away. This time, his rage was mixed with fear. What does he know? He thought. Why speak of truth at funerals? Determined, he clenched his fists. "He will not escape me again," Taye muttered. That evening, he followed Daren to the man's small hut on the edge of the village. As the sun sank into the horizon, Taye stepped forward. "Tell me what you meant," he demanded. "What truth are you talking about?" Daren lifted his gaze slowly, his eyes reflecting the fading sunset. The dead do not rest until their stories are told, he said in a quiet but steady voice. Taye frowned, confused. Stories? What stories? He pressed. Daren's face grew solemn. Your father and Lami were killed. Their spirits are restless, and they cry for justice. Taye staggered back, shaking his head. That's madness. My father was old. He died naturally. And Lami, she fell. Everyone knows it. His voice trembled between anger and fear. But Daren only nodded gravely. You don't have to believe me, Taye. The truth reveals itself when the time is right. Listen carefully, and you will hear it too. That night, Taye returned to the village unsettled. He told no one about his conversation, but the words gnawed at his mind. Meanwhile, villagers whispered endlessly about Daren's strange behavior. Some believed he was cursed by the gods. Others claimed he had been gifted with a power to see beyond the living. If he knows the truth, let him say it, an elder declared. But Daren kept silent. Unable to dismiss Daren's words, Taye began to investigate quietly. He started by questioning his father's old friends. Did you notice anything strange before my father died? He asked one evening. An elderly man named Okiri shifted uncomfortably before answering. Your father was not himself in his last days. He complained of a bitter taste in his food. Taye's heart thudded. He had always believed his father's death was natural, but now doubt gnawed at him. Could Daren's words be true? Determined, he went to the village healer, Adana, who had treated Elder Nwoke before his passing. Did my father come to you? He asked. Adana nodded slowly. Yes, he came complaining of stomach pains. I gave him herbs, but I suspected something more. I feared poison. Poison? Taye's eyes widened. Adana hesitated before whispering, yes. I warned him to be cautious, but it was already too late. Taye's legs nearly gave way. Could it be possible that someone had truly poisoned his father? And if so, who? His mind returned to Daren's words. The dead cry for justice. As he dug deeper, Taye also began to hear disturbing rumors about Lami's death. Her closest friend, Ifyananya, confided in him one night. Lami was afraid before she died, she said softly. She told me she discovered something about someone in the village, but she never told me who. Taye's blood ran cold. And then she died? He whispered. Ifyananya nodded with tears in her eyes. Taye's determination hardened. Both deaths suddenly seemed connected. He returned to Daren's hut at dusk, his heart heavy with questions. You were right, Taye admitted, his voice filled with frustration. There is more to their deaths than I thought. Daren's calm eyes met his. The dead do not lie. Their whispers reach me. Elder Nwoke and Lami demand justice. The question is, will you seek it? Taye clenched his fists, fire burning in his chest. I will, he said firmly. Daren leaned forward, his voice low. Then be warned. The truth is dangerous. There are people in Okiri who will do anything to keep their secrets hidden. Taye swallowed hard. Are you saying someone in the village murdered them both? Daren nodded. Yes, and they are closer than you think. Sleep abandoned Taye that night. Daren's words haunted him like restless drums. Closer than I think, he repeated in his mind. Who among the villagers could be so cruel? At dawn, he resolved to find out. He began gathering stories again, this time from his father's closest allies. Most claimed ignorance, but one man, Uche, finally spoke. Your father argued with someone before he died, Uche admitted. Taye leaned in, his chest tight. Who was it? Uche hesitated, then said quietly, Your uncle, Emeka. The words struck Taye like a spear. His uncle Emeka? Elder Nwoke's younger brother? It seemed impossible. Emeka had always been close to the family, sharing meals, laughter, and burdens. But Uche's tone carried no doubt. They met in secret, Uche added quietly. Your father was upset afterward. Whatever they argued about, it was serious. Taye's chest ached with dread. Could his own uncle have poisoned his father? The thought made him sick. Yet he could not ignore the suspicion. I must confront him, Taye muttered. If he is guilty, I need to hear it from his own lips. That night, he walked restlessly, rehearsing the questions he would ask. At dawn, Taye strode to Emeka's compound. His uncle was outside, sharpening a machete when Taye arrived. Uncle, I need to speak with you. Taye said, his voice tight with restraint. Emeka looked up, surprised but calm. What troubles you, my son? He asked. Taye didn't waste time. I know you argued with my father before he died. Tell me what it was about. Emeka's face darkened instantly. He slammed the machete onto the wooden bench. That is none of your concern, he barked. Taye stood his ground, fists clenched. It is my concern. Did you have anything to do with his death? Emeka's eyes blazed. How dare you accuse me of such wickedness? I loved your father like my own soul. Then prove it, Taye pressed. Tell me the truth. For a long moment, Emeka's expression was unreadable. Finally, he sighed and sat heavily. Your father wanted me to sell my share of the family land, he admitted. I refused. We quarreled bitterly, but that was all. I would never harm him. His words rang with sincerity, but something in his eyes unsettled Taye. Frustrated, Taye returned to Daren. I confronted my uncle, he said, pacing back and forth. He admitted they fought, but he denied everything else. Daren nodded slowly, as though he had expected it. The guilty rarely confess easily, he murmured. Taye frowned. Then what do you know? Daren's gaze drifted into the distance. The poison was slipped into your father's food, little by little. The hand that delivered it was not alone. Taye froze. Not alone. Daren nodded. He had help. Someone who knew the household well. Taye's mind spun. Who? He demanded. Daren's voice dropped low. Look to those closest to your family. The ones who handled his meals. The words chilled Taye. There was only one person who matched that description. The housemaid, Adiz. Determined, Taye went to question Adiz. At first, she avoided his gaze, fidgeting with her hands. I don't know anything, she said quickly. But Taye leaned closer, his voice firm. Adiz, you worked in my father's house for years. Tell me the truth. Her lips trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know much, she whispered. But your uncle often came into the kitchen. He insisted on preparing special meals for your father. Taye's heart pounded. Special meals. Adiz nodded shakily. He said it was a family recipe, something that would make your father stronger. I didn't think much of it. He was family, and your father trusted him. Taye clenched his fists. Trust, his father's greatest weakness. But was Adiz hiding something more? Taye knew he needed wisdom. He went to the oldest storyteller in Okiri, Mama Nkechi, a woman whose sharp eyes missed nothing. Sitting on her veranda, he explained everything he had learned. When he finished, she nodded slowly. Your uncle has always been jealous of Elder Nwoke's success, she said. If he is guilty, tread carefully. He is clever and dangerous. Her words only deepened Taye's resolve. He would not stop until the truth was uncovered. Mama Nkechi's words haunted Taye long after he left her veranda. As he walked home, his thoughts kept circling back to Lami. She was close to my father, Mama Nkechi had said. She often helped him with errands. Perhaps she overheard something she was not meant to know. Taye stopped in his tracks. Could that be why Lami had died? Had she discovered the truth about his father's poisoning? The idea struck him with a crushing weight. Lami died because she tried to protect my father, he thought bitterly. His fists clenched as anger mixed with guilt. I will not let her death be in vain, he whispered. That night, Taye decided to confront Emeka once more, this time with no restraint. When Taye stormed into Emeka's compound, he found his uncle resting under a tree. I know you poisoned my father, Taye shouted, his voice trembling with rage. And I know Lami found out. That's why she died. Emeka's face turned pale, then hardened into stone. You have no proof, he spat. Be careful with your tongue, boy. You do not know the weight of your accusations. Taye stepped closer, refusing to be cowed. Then I will find proof, even if I have to turn this village upside down. Emeka's eyes narrowed, his voice low and dangerous. You are playing with fire, nephew. Fire that will burn you. Taye did not flinch. I'm not afraid of the truth, he said. Emeka turned away, but Taye could see fear flickering beneath his anger. That night, whispers spread through Okiri. Some villagers admired Taye's bravery. Others shook their heads. Why can't he let the dead rest? They murmured. Even his mother begged him to stop. Your father is gone, my son, she pleaded. Do not bring more danger upon us. But Taye's mind was firm. If I don't fight for the truth, who will? The following night, as Taye prepared to sleep, he found a folded note slid under his door. His hands shook as he opened it. The message was short but chilling. Stop asking questions, or you will regret it. For a moment, fear clutched his chest, but then his jaw tightened. They want me silent, he whispered. That means I'm close. The next morning, Taye carried the note to Daren. They're trying to scare me, he said, his voice heavy. Daren studied the note and chuckled softly. Fear is the shield of the guilty, he said. They know the truth is near, and they tremble. Taye shivered at his words. Then I can't stop now, he said firmly. Daren nodded. The spirits of the dead are with you. For the first time, Taye asked for Daren's help openly. I cannot face this alone, he admitted. Whoever killed my father and Lami is dangerous. Will you stand with me? Daren's calm face softened. The truth is a heavy burden, he replied. But together we can carry it. His voice was steady, and for once his laughter was absent. That evening, Daren revealed more. Your father and Lami's spirits both point to the same man, he said. Taye leaned forward, heart pounding. Is it Emeka? He asked. Daren's eyes darkened. Yes, but he did not act alone. Someone helped him. Taye's breath caught. Who? Daren lowered his voice. Someone very close to your family. Taye's thought spun wildly. His family was small, his mother, his cousins, and Adiz the maid. It can't be, he whispered. But Daren's silence was answer enough. That night, Taye returned to question Adiz again. This time, he watched her carefully, searching for any sign of guilt. You've worked for my family for years, he said quietly. Tell me the truth. Did you ever see my uncle put anything in my father's food? Adiz's hands trembled as Taye's question hung in the air. She avoided his eyes, her lips quivering. I told you before, she whispered. He liked to cook for your father. He said it was a family recipe. Taye leaned closer, his voice sharp. Did you ever see him add anything to the food? Adiz's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head quickly, but her body betrayed her. Tell me the truth, Taye demanded. His voice cracked with desperation. At last, Adiz broke down. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. I didn't mean for anyone to die, she cried. Your uncle forced me. He threatened to harm my family if I didn't let him into the kitchen. I couldn't stop him. I was too afraid. Taye's heart ached with both anger and sorrow. So you knew, he whispered. Adiz nodded weakly. Yes, I knew he was poisoning your father. I tried to stop him once, but he pushed me aside. I am sorry, Taye. So sorry. Her tears stained the floor, but the damage was already done. Betrayal cut deep, even if born of fear. You should have spoken sooner, Taye said, his voice low and bitter. Perhaps my father could have been saved. Perhaps Lami too. Adiz sobbed harder, but Taye turned away, his heart hardening. Now he had what he needed, proof of Emeka's guilt. But how could he bring it to light? That night, he met with Daren again. Sitting under the moonlight, he shared Adiz's confession. Daren listened silently, then nodded. The guilty often hide behind the weak, he said. Your uncle used her fear as a shield. But now the shield is broken. Taye clenched his fists. Then it's time to end this. Daren's eyes glowed with intensity. We must expose him before the whole village, he said. Not with whispers, but with undeniable proof. Taye leaned forward. Ow! Daren smiled faintly. We will set a trap. Invite him to a place where he feels safe, perhaps even to your own table. Then we strike with the truth. Taye hesitated. What if he refuses to confess? Daren's laughter echoed softly, not a mockery, but of certainty. When the guilty are cornered, their own tongues betray them. All we need is the right moment. Taye nodded slowly. Then we'll give him that moment. The plan began to form. Taye would invite Emeka to his house for dinner, acting as though nothing had changed. Adiz's written confession would be ready. Daren would remain hidden until the right time, then step forward to confront him with the evidence. The thought of facing his uncle terrified Taye, but he knew it had to be done. The next evening, Taye carried out the plan. Emeka arrived at his home, smiling warmly. It's good to see you, my boy, he said, embracing Taye as if nothing were wrong. Taye forced a smile, though his stomach churned. They sat at the table, eating quietly. Taye kept his eyes on Emeka, watching every movement. At last Taye spoke. "I still think about my father's death," he said casually. Emeka's smile faltered slightly. "It was a tragedy," he said, avoiding his nephew's gaze. "Yes, a tragedy," Taye agreed. Then he leaned forward, his voice steady. "But tell me, Uncle, was it really an accident?" Emeka's hand shook, and the knife in his grip clattered softly against the plate. Emeka's eyes darted nervously, but he forced a laugh. "What kind of question is that, Taye? Of course it was an accident." Taye slammed his palm on the table. "No more lies, Uncle. I know you poisoned him." Emeka froze, his face draining of color. Before he could respond, Daren stepped out from the shadows, holding Adi's written confession in his hand. The room fell into silence. Daren's voice was calm, but piercing. "We have proof. Your accomplice has already confessed. The dead do not lie. Emeka, their cries have reached us, and now the truth is revealed." Emeka's lips trembled, his eyes wide with panic. For a moment he seemed ready to deny it, but his shoulders slumped under the weight of guilt. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," Emeka whispered. "I only wanted to weaken him, not kill him." Taye's fury erupted. "You betrayed your own brother. You poisoned him slowly like a coward. And what of Lami? Did you silence her too?" Emeka's face crumbled, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes," he admitted hoarsely. "She overheard me and Adi's speaking. She threatened to tell the elders. I couldn't let her." Taye's chest burned with rage and grief. "You killed her to hide your crime," he said, his voice breaking. "All for land and greed." Emeka dropped his head into his hands, sobbing. "I didn't want this. I didn't mean," but Daren cut him off sharply. "The spirits saw everything. Your brother and Lami have spoken through me. The truth cannot be buried any longer." The next day, Taye gathered the village elders. Under the blazing sun, he presented Adi's confession and forced Emeka to repeat his own words before everyone. The crowd gasped in horror, anger boiling through the assembly. "How could you betray your own blood?" one elder thundered. Emeka hung his head, unable to answer. Adi's wept quietly at the side, her shame plain for all to see. The elders passed judgment swiftly. "You, Emeka, are banished from Okiri forever. You will never again bring harm to this land. And you, Adi's, must leave as well. You betrayed the trust of the household you served." Guards stepped forward, escorting them away as the villagers shouted with fury. Justice, though painful, had been delivered. As the crowd dispersed, Taye turned to Daren, who sat under a tree, chuckling softly to himself. "Why are you laughing now?" Taye asked, his voice weary but curious. Daren smiled. "Because justice has been served. Your father and Lami can finally rest." Taye nodded, feeling the weight of grief begin to lift. For the first time, he understood Daren's strange laughter. It was not madness, but relief. From that day, the whispers about Daren began to change. No longer was he called cursed or mad. He was strange, one elder said, but he was right. The villagers began to treat him with respect, though his laughter still unsettled some. Taye, however, saw him differently. "Without you, I would never have found the truth," he told Daren. But Daren only shook his head. The truth was always there. You just needed the courage to see it. Weeks passed, and Okiri began to heal. Taye planted a tree in memory of Elder Nwoke and Lami, vowing to keep their stories alive. The villagers gathered around it, united once more. Life returned slowly to normal, though the memory of betrayal lingered. One morning, Taye went to visit Daren, only to find his hut empty. He had vanished without a word. Taye stood quietly outside the deserted hut, the breeze rustling the trees. For a moment, he thought he heard faint laughter carried on the wind. Smiling softly, he whispered, "Thank you, Daren." Though the man who laughed at funerals was gone, his legacy remained. In Okiri, his laughter was no longer a curse, but a reminder that truth cannot stay buried and that justice, no matter how delayed, will always find its way home.